Thanks for joining. Again, see a couple more people coming in. We'll go ahead and get started here. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay and can see my screen. Welcome to the webinar, the OneConfig webinar, where we're going to be talking about Junos Lifecycle Management, cloud-based management to simplify day-to-day operations of your Juniper infrastructure. So just to kind of cover right off at the beginning here, our agenda, we're going to do an introduction to OneConfig. We're going to talk about populating the network devices in OneConfig. We're going to go through configuring Junos devices, software upgrades, troubleshooting and monitoring, and then getting support from the OneConfig team. There's a couple other pieces and parts in there that we'll touch on outside of that agenda as well. So for those of you that aren't familiar, OneConfig, we are a cloud-based network management platform for Juniper devices. Very simple deployment for the platform because it's offered as a service in the cloud, so that there's nothing on premise. There's no servers to install locally. There's no requirements to allocate memory and CPU to a server, and there's no updates. Then all that's handled on our side between the development team pushing out new updates, and then the support for different versions of Junos on the platform side. We handle all those things that may change within Junos across different versions. That's all handled by OneConfig. We've got a very simple, intuitive UI. As I mentioned, cloud-based, also have cloud-based zero-touch provisioning, or ZTP. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail here in the next slide, I think. And then we've got a new easy Junos upgrades feature that I'll talk about. And then, obviously we have support for the entire EX platform, whether it's an older legacy 2200 or the largest switch you can buy, the 9200. We support all those switches in between and the new models as well. So, the 2300s, the 3400s, all those in between. The SRX is the same way, the older SRX 100s all the way to the new 300s, all the way up to the 5800. Also support the VSRX, the NFXs, the 150 and the 250. So that's the hypervisor platform, and then the QFX, considered like a data center switch. A lot of folks using that as an aggregate type of device. We are multi-tenancy, and there's no extra cost to do that. You just turn on multi-tenancy, and then you can add devices at a tenant level and put users in at a tenant level, and then those users within the tenant level have access just to the tenant level devices. And then we have centralized visibility and control. Again, you can manage this in things that are going on today in the world. You can manage your network devices from anywhere. So just need a web browser, be able to connect. Cloud-based zero-touch provisioning. Devices are now shipping from distribution that have phone home ZTP or cloud-based ZTP enabled by default. So you can plug that device into the network, it'll get an address automatically, and it'll make an SSL HTTPS connection out to the redirect server, and then can connect into OneConfig automatically with really no touch. Can also do that over LTE modem. So there's an LTE card, 4G LTE, that you can put into the devices. And they can do the same cloud-based ZTP through that LTE connection. This is supported also on the EX line and the NFX line. So EX switches now shipping from the factory will automatically phone home and connect up. This is on newer devices, right? So the legacy device types would not work on that, but all the new switches, all the new SRXs, working very well on those. As I mentioned, factory ready, so they're coming from the factory with this version of Junos, or the correct version of Junos pre-installed, and they make this call home. A big savings there, not to have to roll trucks out to sites or to send engineering teams out on premise, or to double ship devices where you ship a device to some staging location, then ship it to the in-prem. You can just direct shipped, and then a non-technical person can just power it on and plug it into the network, and away it goes. We have simple templates available for downloading, or from my team for doing zero-touch provisioning, as well as templates for bulk updates, which we'll talk about a little bit. Definitely secure and reliable. All the connections encrypted, whether it's doing the connection to OneConfig or the connection via ZTP. A little screenshot here of our new Junos upgrade function. Super excited about this. As you can see in the screenshot there, we have a branch device, and it's running 19. I can't see it in the drop down. I'll try to show that when I'm in the live interface, but you can see that's running 19. And then we've got other versions of Junos available for us to install And we even call out here that 18.2R3S2 is the recommended, at the time the screenshot was taken, that was the recommended version of code from JTAC for that device. So you could just pick that as a suggested. And then we populate these fields automatically. So when you pick your device type, it pulls the available disk space on that device. So at that moment, you know how much space you have. And then when you pick your image, the image size will populate as well. And then you just click new upgrade. It'll go through the connection. You know, we transfer this package from our internal repo to the device over that tunnel. And then the device goes through the regular upgrade process, you know, requested some software add if you know the CLI, but you don't have to know any of that because we do all those things automatically. It does the install, and then it automatically does the reboot, and then we'll just see that device connect with the new version of software once it comes back up. Very simple. We have a new syslog viewer as well. A screenshot here showing where I'm picking a file type, messages, interactive commands. I think there's another file type now that we've added to this already. Even though it's a new feature, we've already added another file type, I think chassis D or something. But we get a little pop-out box here where we can see you know, a streaming real-time view of the logs coming from the devices. So this, you know, is very helpful in troubleshooting you know, either interactive commands that are being ran, or if I've got some type of policy logging and I'm sending that you know, that policy logging to log messages, and then I can open up the log messages syslog real-time log viewer, and I can see those. This is all done over that encrypted secure connection between the device and OneConfig. Also, when this finishes, there's a download option here, so you can download those logs for further evaluation offline. Super nice. Right, so we're going to get right into the demonstration portion. So I am in our live environment here, and I'll kind of step through a couple things. The first thing I want to kind of cover off is, you know, here we've got a view. You know, we can create different sites based on their address, and then we've got this interactive map where we can kind of jump into those, and I can click in here and I can see, you know, how many devices do I have at this location. Ohio location, I have none, versus if I can click into Cape Town here, I can see I've got one device online and one device offline. So when I clicked on that, I get this nice little filter that brings me into the UI here to show me those devices that are based on that filter. I can also get rid of this, go back to my full view, and really we're talking about lifecycle management here. So, you know, I can show devices that are offline for some reason. Maybe this device has failed, and I want to restore it, or maybe this, you know, these devices, as I mentioned here, are online. So let's go through adding a device real quick. So we're going to go ahead and say I'm going to do this in a manual fashion. As I mentioned in the slides, there we support zero touch provisioning as well. But I'm going to say this is a firewall, and maybe I'm deploying, you know, my branch 1, 2, 3 firewall. And as I have the option here to pick zero touch provisioning and input my serial number, and then I can pick one of those easy, simple templates. And then based on that template, I may have elements of the configuration that I can customize. So I can put in there the device host name at this point, and it'll actually set that on the device. Then when the device connects for zero touch provisioning, in this instance, I'm just going to do a basic device add. Also have optional fields I can step through, so I can customize my authentication that I'm going to do against the device. I can customize that username and password if I choose to. If I'm using maybe I have my own internal Radius server that I want to use, I can also set that here, and then provide the details that I'm going to use to authenticate the device via Radius. We also have a new where we can allow these legacy MD5 passwords for security purposes. I want to leave that off for now, and I can go ahead and connect this device into a site. So I'm going to go ahead and tag that as the Ohio office, and I'm going to give it a tag of firewall as well. I want config backups turned on, and I don't want to do syslog for this device, and I don't want to do ANR at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and create this device. Simple. Here we're going to get configlet, and then I'm going to copy and paste this onto the device at the CLI. So I have this device up in another window. I'll just drag across here. I'll go into configuration mode. I'll paste in my configlet. And I'm going to go ahead and make that change. Right. Go ahead and get rid of that window. Close this off. As soon as my commit is successful, we'll see that device connect out to the platform. So I'll just kind of talk about, the reason I added that device and talk about lifecycle management is that, so let's say one of these devices I have here, this branch 3, let's potentially, maybe it got a power surge or some type of brownout and that device has failed for some reason. So we have the ability to kind of come in here, look at the device details, and I can download this configuration. So I can click download, I can save it, open it. Let's go ahead and open this up. And then, this device that I just added could be my replacement, my RMA device. And go ahead and see if I can bring that up here. So the device I just added could be my replacement device that I got through RMA. So I went through adding it. I added it as branch 123, but I could have very easily have made that SRX branch 03, and then I can take this configuration and through our bulk update tool, I can put it back onto the device. So if I went to configuration, so here I have, I downloaded this config just a moment ago. I can copy this, and we have this bulk update tool where I can go in here to say new update, and I can pick my my branch 123 device here out of the list, and then I could put my configuration that I have from my backup, and I could update this device at that moment in time. And I do want to select Junos and say replace. So what in essence would happen is the existing device configuration would be replaced by this configuration that I'm going to push through our bulk update tool. So we can easily replace the configuration from a failed device onto a new device, RMA device, using this tool. So I just did a copy and a paste there and created a new job, and then that device would then flip over and be online. Important to note about that is that we default to commit confirm being enabled, commit confirm 5 minutes. And what happens, for those that don't know, in Junos, you can queue your changes up, commit confirm in 5, and if you don't commit a second time, those changes roll back. So with OneConfig, we automatically will commit it a second time as long as the device stays connected to OneConfig. If it disconnects from our platform, the config will roll back. So you still have the safety net without any administrative overhead. So you would want to disable that commit confirmed options under settings if I was replacing a device, because I would want it to commit that without a commit confirmed to switch this over from branch to branch 3 to replace this device. But hopefully that kind of workflow makes sense, how we would use those tools to be able to replace a device with an RMA device from a config that we have backed up in OneConfig. I'll talk about these config backups a little bit as well. They are automatically taken every hour, and if the configuration changes, we keep the new version. If the configuration has not changed, we discard the new version. So we don't, we just evaluate it. We go and evaluate the configuration on the device. If it doesn't match, we keep it as a new, the new backup. And if it does match, we discard that newer one. So we can kind of step through one of these devices. Let's go to this branch SRX 300. You'll notice here, just to kind of cover this off, my SRX 300 is online now. This is the one I just added. So we can now at this moment effectively jump in and manage this device through any of these different action menus. So I can go into the security policies of this device. Very, very important, I think, or a key differentiator with OneConfig and how we interact with the device is that we're always reading the configuration from the device at the moment in time that the user requests it. So when I selected the device and I said security policies, we fetch this security policies section of the configuration and all the components needed to build this page for me. And so now I can effectively see different security policies, trust to trust, trust to untrust, and what their configuration is. Something we do here as well, where we're calling out, I've got an any policy above another policy. So if I was trying to block traffic, I would need to move this up a higher level. So I needed to reorganize those. I could drag that up then here. Another very popular tool that we use for security policy's sake and the lifecycle management is maybe over time, I want to keep track of my security policies. We've got a nice little download button here where I can download those security policies, and it'll open them up in a CSV. And so if I needed to provide those as some type of auditor, or if I just needed to record those over time, I can download those security policies, and I'd have a record of all my security policies for that device over time then by downloading these different versions as those policies change. And then earlier I was talking about our backup jobs. So I clicked on the device there and I can go into config backups. This device isn't going to have any quite yet because we just connected to the platform. So if I go to branch 01, system and monitoring. So I just switch from one branch firewall to another branch firewall, and here I can go into configuration backups. As I mentioned here, our note talks about how our job runs automatically every hour. Nothing for users to do or administrators to do to change that or to make that just make sure that the config backups is enabled. And then here we can see over time that I've got different config backups. And I was on the other window earlier, the device details window, and I clicked download, and I got this configuration I have here in my text file. I can also download it from this screen. And then we also do a diff where we can compare, do a diff between two versions of the config archive or config backups. So here I can see red and green, things that changed over time. So kind of back to that, if I was doing a Junos upgrade, I would see that version change across two different backups, things of that nature. Anytime I'm changing something with the platform, I mentioned earlier how we read the configuration in real time, and that means it doesn't matter if I make a change at the CLI. So here I can see root made a CLI change versus somebody here via our development platform is making changes. Alejandro, one of our testers, is making changes. So I can go in and view these as well. So I can go in and look at this this commit and see, root at the CLI actually took off this flexible VLAN tagging from this interface, and they added, this VLAN membership of VLAN trust. So I can see exactly what somebody made, even if they'd made that change at the CLI. And then when you make a change via OneConfig, we push through the user via OneConfig that made the change. So if I was on the CLI, I could do show system commits, and I would see this message. So I would know that Alejandro made this change via Sky Enterprise versus, somebody at the root at the CLI would make that change. We also can do rollback. So if I wanted to roll this commit back, and maybe it was a problem, somebody made a mistake, and I needed to roll that back, I have the ability to do it here, right here on our platform. While I'm in this section, we'll go ahead and kind of cover off a few other elements. We have a view into temperature, CPU, memory utilization over time, and I can see, hourly, day, weekly, and then monthly. And then I can go back here to my security sessions, and I can see all those. So a great place to come look for scaling. So, do I know, is my device, do I have the right size device for this branch? Maybe I'm seeing a lot of sessions, more sessions than this device is rated for, or maybe I'm just seeing a few sessions. So this 50 sessions is not a lot. The device can definitely handle way more than that. So I can kind of look at those over time, and it gives me an idea for scaling. Same thing with interface graphing here. On this device, we're actually seeing app track data coming in. So I'll also see app track data down below. And then you can also see, more like SNMP type of data over minutes, hours, days, and weeks. So I have all my interfaces on this page. I see a question there in the thing. I'll try to cover that off at the end. Also ANR reporting. So this is application and network risk reports. This gives me a historical view into applications. So some of the app tracking information, IDP elements, all those kind of next generation firewall functionality would be in this report. And then, in that slideshow, I was talking about one of our new features of real-time logs. So we're going to go ahead and pick, chassis I thought was the other one we've added. So interactive logs, and we're going to start this. So here I can see different elements that are getting ran on the device. So I can see here, some get CLI tip information. So get probe results, LODP neighbors. So these are things that are being ran on the device via the interactive log file. So I was running some of these in the other window. Go ahead and stop the logs. And now I can download this to evaluate it further. Also have a view into licensing, so I can see the different end dates for those licenses. So some of those next generation firewall features require license information. So this is, kind of again back to that lifecycle management. What licenses do I have on this device? When are they going to end? And it's going to raise a expiry warning within 90 days. This is configurable, so I can go in and make the changes to this if I wanted to be warned further out or not quite as far out. We also have a view into the device alarms, whether my rescue config here is not saved, I can go ahead and save that. Also have some actions where if I want to, request system storage cleanup, this is a very popular one. As these log files, there is a rotation, automatic rotation, but maybe I want to go ahead and clean up some of those other files that aren't rotated, or I've got some large files there for some reason, flow D or something of that nature. This will go out and clean those up for me. This is also can be done as part of that Junos upgrade. We've got to reboot the device, power it off, halt the device. Also, a nice one here for rotating root passwords. I can go in here and update my root password on this device. You can also clear the auto recovery information, and then I could resave it. And then same thing with save rescue config. This turns into delete then, so I could delete it in the future. We also have the ability to renew DHCP lease. And then we have a diagnostics page here where I can ping an IP address from the device. So I can go out there and tell this device, I want you to ping 8888. So we get a report back there from the device, whether it was successful. We can see there it was, it sent 5 pings. And then we have a view into RPM probes. I want to cover that off in another section here where I talk about custom SD-WAN and routing. So this is a function that we've had in the platform for over a year now. So we can see app track data. So I can see what data is flowing out this link. And this custom SD-WAN and routing section is really just all the things that I think about when I think about my WAN connectivity. Where do I want to steer applications to go? What does my bandwidth look like on those WAN links? Maybe I've got maybe more of a primary WAN link with a higher capacity, and I've got maybe a cheaper type of WAN link here. Either way, but this one's Vodafone, this one's EasyNet, just to give kind of an example. I can also select my WAN interfaces. So this is again just a view of the WAN interfaces, and I can pick those out of the list. We try to determine what those are, versus the other section I showed was all of our interfaces, right? And then under system and graphs here, we also have a view into that information as well. This becomes important when we're thinking about our WAN. My licenses are here. I've got a app usage. This is that A&R reporting section. And then under application routing, here's where I can make a path decision. And I think what's key here is that there's an app ID database. So it's not just saying some type of faux DNS lookup or some type of destination IP routing. It's actually using the app ID database to make a forwarding decision. So here I've got an EasyNet rule, and I've got a Vodafone rule name. And I can edit this Vodafone rule or the EasyNet one either way, but I'll edit this one. You can see here I've got Spotify and Netflix. So maybe I want to say I want to pick Farmville, and this is an app ID out of the app ID database. So we're going to identify that and then steer that traffic out the Vodafone link. And the platform uses real-time performance monitoring to cause automatic failover and automatic failback. So it's great to be able to steer the traffic over a link, but what happens when the Vodafone link goes down? And absolutely, that's what we do here with real-time performance monitoring. Here we've got a Vodafone probe that's going to go out, and I can see all the round trip time and jitter and delay for that probe. And then when this probe fails, we're going to put a path to go out EasyNet. And if EasyNet probe fails, which I can see all that data for EasyNet as well, we're going to put a better path to go out Vodafone via the EasyNet forwarding instance there. So, and those will automatically restore when those probes come back. So we have failover and failback automatically. Nothing for anyone to do to cause that to happen. That could be also using LTE. This application routing could be extended out to have IPsec tunnels that we're steering across, as well as internet breakout. So really, it just becomes building out 2 more rules, and then the forwarding instance being the next hop of the IPsec tunnel. So super simple to be able to make these path forwarding decisions. The other element I want to talk about a little bit here is configuration. I was in this section earlier with the bulk updates, but I do want to show the Junos upgrade. We have a slide of it, but here I can pick, my Ohio device, which I believe is, that's not showing up yet. We'll give it a minute here. Pick one of these this Brancho one that we're looking at. So this one's running, as we mentioned, 18.2, and I can see here that the recommended is actually 18.4. So I could, in this instance, I could actually install 18.4, which would be a downgrade, but that's fine. I can do that. I can stage it so where the package is just transferred to the device. So maybe I wanted to stage it ahead of time so I didn't have to wait on the download to happen in my maintenance window. and then have the ability to upgrade, which would, the upgrade actually checks to see if there's a stage package on the device. And if there is, it runs an MD5 check. Either way, whether it's staged or upgrade, it runs the MD5 check. But if you do an upgrade after you've staged a package, we run the MD5 check to make sure that the package integrity is good, and then we can run the install after that. So as you can see, I clicked on advanced here. You don't have to use the advanced options, but I can request system storage cleanup as part of this. I can do a system reboot, and I can validate or not choose to not validate the configuration. And then here we can see I've upgraded that SRX I connected a minute ago. Oh, it didn't show up because I called it branch, not Ohio. There it is. Yeah. So here I can. It happens when you use the same device for multiple labs, right? So here I can do. Here I'm showing just the output when I did that that Junos upgrade on that device. We did the MD5 matched successfully, and then we requested the install. Then here we can see the logs coming back from the device. So I can see here that 18.4 was actually, we started with 18.2, I think, and then 18.4 was installed, and it's going to become active at the next reboot, and then we're doing the reboot. So then the device reconnected to Sky once it came back up. No issues there, and away it went, and we're on the new version of code. So super easy. These are all in the Sky Enterprise repo, and as you can see there, if I pick different versions, so I can pick a switch, and I've got other versions I can pick for the switch. So it's the platform knows that this is a switch versus a firewall, and what versions of Junos to offer up to the user to select. And then we're also showing in there which is the recommended JTAC recommended version of code. So we still have our little older method where customers can host their own images, that type of thing. And then we can go into the ZTP templates a little bit here. So here we're able to see some of those templates. This basic one is the one I pulled up a minute ago, and you can see here the host name. That's why it's a variable. So again, we have simple templates for folks to use our own that we've developed in-house. And then, just enough to get the device online, and then you can go through our UI to manage the device after it's connected. Kind of like I was showing there earlier, where the device connected, and it was running a fairly default config. It had a little bit on it, but I was able to go in and read those sections from the device automatically because of the way in which our platform's designed. We're reading that config in real time. Another great way to be able to get into the device and check on things or to make changes is through our Junos CLI. So I've got two-factor enabled, and I'm logged in with an account with two-factor enabled. So here you can see I'm logged into the device. I can go into config mode. I can show my interfaces or whatever it may be. I can edit into those. I can also copy and paste in and out of this window. So really awesome tool to be able to get into the CLI if I needed to, and to run some commands, whatever it is I may need to do. No more putty bookmarks or things of that nature. I can just come to OneConfig and be able to load up that window. Some other details around this device. Again, I showed it on the other page there, the Junos upgrade page, but we've got a nice green checkbox here because we are running the recommended or the suggested Junos version. If we were not running it, we'd have an exclamation point here, a call to action, and then we've got this nice easy upgrade workflow button that takes us into that upgrade process to be able to go and actually make upgrades. So another section here, we can add a description, but I think what's really something I sometimes don't see folks taking advantage of is our alarm email address. And this box is a per device, so I can definitely put my email address in here. Make sure config backups is turned on, security collection, syslog, whatever it may be, and I can add a description. We'll cover off here too. We're showing the serial number. Chassis clusters, we'd see multiple serial numbers. Same thing with virtual chassis. We'd see multiple serial numbers in the list. We've got the release notes for this version of code. A couple other information. I can see the IP addresses, how long it's been up. Get a little hover there to give a little bit more detail around how long it's been up. I don't have a host name set. It's a 300. So go ahead and update this device. Also, instead of setting it on a per device, I have the ability to go to settings here, and under the settings tab, cover off a couple things here while we're here, but at the bottom here, I have a default alarm email address, so I can put in here, maybe I want my, and then I want my counterpart John, I want him to get these emails as well. So I can just put us in there and click update, and now we'll get those emails. Commit confirm is turned on by default. We've got it off in this tenant, but yeah, we can turn it on by checking the box, or turn it off by unchecking the box, and then we can pick our commit confirm timer. 5 minutes seems to be a good place to be. I can also specify if I'm just going to use Radius for all my new devices, that I'll cause that to be default checked. If I want config backups on new devices or not, security collection or not. You can also integrate with Mist, ArrowHive, and then we have support for that new MPIM, wireless PIM card. As I mentioned in the slides there, multi-tenancy is just baked in. I can just check that box. I can also change my custom password complexity. Upload my own logos, that sort of thing. Kind of back on our home page here, I do also want to talk a little bit about our tools and our topology. So great way to be able to, whoops, 100, yeah, let's go ahead and ping this guy. So 164.0.1, I'm going to go ahead and look for that IP address across all the devices that are connected to OneConfig. So super helpful tool to be able to find. So the port 0 sees this address in its ARP table, and it's on this SRX branch device. So this is one I was on earlier showing the custom SD-WAN section, but also have a Mac search tool as well. Topology, we build this using LLDP. So here I can pick different devices. So here I've got a switch that is in OneConfig. So as I click it, I've got some information about it up here in the top. I can also jump into configuration details of that device. I can see those LLDP connections, and I can go view graphs. So these are the interfaces that see, LLDP neighbors and things on as well. Also, anything running. So here's a lab server. So it's not configurable by OneConfig, but we see it on the network via LLDP. So anything running LLDP, whether it's Wi-Fi access points, phones, IoT devices, servers, anything running LLDP plugged into devices in OneConfig would show up in here as well. So go ahead and jump onto this devices interface page. So here's where I did that search earlier for the 164.0.1. So it saw it on that interface there. We also have a configuration and a view of spanning tree. So here I can see who the root bridge is. I can make changes to those global settings to maybe make myself more likely to become the root bridge by lowering my bridge priority. And also see all the interfaces, their status. So interfaces that are either down or blocking state forwarding. This is the path to the root bridge, out port 2. Great information to show there. But the other piece I wanted to show was this LLDP neighbor table. So here you can see, this is the information that we use to build that topology view, but we do that the topology view automatically. So just by having LLDP enabled, you can come here and see what this specific device's view of LLDP looks like. So you can see, the different devices and where they're connected to. So port 2 was the root bridge, and you can see there's a switch out that port. So might be that device is actually the root bridge. We can see the info for the local connection, and then also ARP table, Ethernet switching table as well. So here we can see that 164.0.1. So I did that search earlier, so I didn't have to come here and hunt to try to find it, but I wanted to show how you can see that information here as well. So Ethernet switching as well. I don't know that this device has, a little bit of switching. So we can see the MAC addresses, essentially layer 2, right? Also set up interfaces, ranges, and view the VLANs, add new VLANs. Have a view into the voice VLANs as well. If there's voice VLANs defined, that'd be where you're sharing, a tagged and an untagged link on the same port because there's a phone and a PC downstream of that. And then we've got some nice tools for doing things like bouncing the interfaces. So I can come in here and I can bounce an interface, right? At the Junos CLI, you would configure, you would set that interface to disable, you would do a commit, and then you do a rollback, and then you do a commit again. We built that all into a button here. I can also view the graph on these interfaces natively here versus going to the other, the other section under system and monitoring. But if I wanted to look at multiple interfaces, I would go to system and monitoring there. I can also go in here and edit these. So super simple to edit. I can go in here. This is a layer 3 interface. I can go in here and I can make changes to this. I can add a secondary IP address if I needed to, turn it on for DHCP, and also set up VLAN tagging. Maybe I wanted to do VLANs 10, 20, and 30 or something of that nature. So I can add those in to that section. You can see the interface support. We've got quite a bit of different interfaces. So here I can see LT, logical tunnels, IRB interfaces. This would be the layer 3. If you bound a VLAN to a layer 3 interface, you'd use the IRBs. And again, that's one of those things I talked about earlier was our understanding of the different versions of Junos and how that's changed. In older switches, right, that was VLAN dot something, and our platform knows on an older switch connected to the platform to use the VLAN dot interface to make a layer 3 if you're binding layer 3 to a VLAN, versus the newer Junos supports IRB naming schemes. So we would use the IRB .0.1, whatever it may be, to build out the layer 3 interfaces for VLANs, and you would do that on the VLANs page. But that's not something that any customers have to maintain. There's no databases or device dictionaries to upload. So when you install a new version of code, our platform just knows the things for that version of code based on the back end. So super simple to upgrade and then support those different versions and those different device types. Okay, let me check my list here. I've covered off just about everything I wanted to cover off. I mean, there's definitely way more elements that the platform supports, but I really wanted to kind of stay on, lifecycle management, bouncing interfaces, talk about replacing devices, those sort of things, adding a device. So let me go back to, I've got a few more slides. So let's go back into this section here, and then we'll cover off some questions at the end. So I showed, in our live demo there, custom SD-WAN and routing. That's been in the platform for quite some time. It's actually, about a little over a year ago, we created that as a section, but even before that, we had those underlying functionality. We could do the APBR and those application policy-based routing for those that don't know the acronym APBR. But so we've kind of combined that to make it even simpler. And the next kind of change to this is our simple SD-WAN. So really, what simple SD-WAN is bringing to the platform is the next evolution of SD-WAN for us. So it's still using things like APBR, route steering, real-time performance monitoring, infrastructure-centric view. But what we have is an orchestration, essentially the ability to deploy a device, bring it online, and then when I bring that device onto the line, I can update the databases automatically. The platform will, and so I need the app ID database, and then build IPsec tunnels if I'm building, a hub to maybe some type of head end. So maybe I'm building a branch site that's going to come online. It's going to connect to my corporate site, and I want to build an IPsec tunnel there. And also can have that internet steering, so I can use those links for both direct internet breakout. So if I wanted to send Spotify out one, less expensive link, I can do so, as well as have the IPsec to give me connectivity, encrypted connectivity back to my corporate offices, and then I can steer things like SIP one way and exchange traffic another way, or whatever things I want to steer via my corporate links via those tunnels. Also, if those were MPLS links, that's fine. Can build tunnels over those as well. So either way, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the orchestration piece that's going to bring all this together into a wizard, and then give you a little easier way to deploy a device and to bring it up and online and connect multiple devices together and add all the routing automatically for, this new site is this LAN subnet, and automatically add that to the head end, so I can, I can steer that down the tunnel to get to that branch site that I've just brought online, and then also visibility with the link and device status, as well as app usage reporting and RPM graph. So kind of back to the user details, email addresses that we add into the platform, for device status and alarms. Want to make sure that information is populated so that you're getting the benefit of those things. So as I mentioned, right, this is simple SD-WAN. This is our phased approach coming soon. So the first phase will have hub and spoke deployment through this kind of wizard that I talked about. Building a new branch and then connecting it to an existing hub and then multiple branches, bringing them up and online and connected to the hub. Can have that type of thing. Then phase 2, which we're looking at Q3, network visibility with the map overlay. So I showed that map. So more details around that, and more visibility in the map about the SD-WAN topology and changes in the SD-WAN topology. And then Q4, extended branch node configuration options. So the ability to go back and do a little bit more elements there as well. And then kind of down here at the bottom, cloud-based management for Junos today. Very comprehensive device configuration and management, cloud-based CTP and Junos upgrades, SRX Wi-Fi, missed Wi-Fi visibility, all in one platform, and then SD-WAN DIY, which is the kind of custom SD-WAN, and then as well as the simple SD-WAN. So a couple things to talk about a little bit too as well. I mentioned some unique things about how we read in the configuration, that sort of element. We also have the support for the MPIM, the wireless card, and then we've done several language localizations in the platform as well. So things like Japanese, Spanish now, Korean, those are all languages that we support in the platform. Through the drop-down box, you can just pick your language that you prefer. And then, so if you need to get any assistance or a 30-day free trial, please email support@oneconfig.net. Definitely more than happy to help with getting trials started and that sort of thing. I do see a couple questions there in the Q&A. To talk about OneConfig versus Sky Enterprise. So OneConfig is the engine. I work for OneConfig, and we build the Sky Enterprise engine. So this is a webinar more geared towards OneConfig, but we provide the engine. We are the platform that drives Sky Enterprise. It's not an add-on. We are the engine that drives that platform. So I just wanted to kind of talk about OneConfig and our go-to-market as Sky Enterprise, as well as an individual platform, and then some of the things that we're doing there with SD-WAN, custom SD-WAN, and then simple SD-WAN. Hopefully that helps. It helps answer those questions there. I want to say thanks for everyone's time. I'll definitely hang out a little bit here. We've kind of covered everything I wanted to, but if there's more questions, please should have a Q&A